There are 3 holes in the ground on the hill full of water, and it's Friday, the 10th of July. This is episode 2027 of 301 Permanently Moved Online, a personal podcast 301 seconds in length, written, recorded, and edited in 1 hour by me at the JMO. First of all, I'd like to offer my big congratulations to friends, colleagues, and co-conspirators at Rival Strategy and the Serpentine Gallery for launching their long-awaited 150-something page report, Art and Advanced Technologies. The report offers strategic insights to practitioners and organisations across art, science, technology, and policy, with contributions from Holly Herndon, Ian Cheng, Hyphen Labs, Kenrick McDowell, Rachel Armstrong, and Takashi Kudo of TeamLab, and more. If you have an interest in or work in any of those fields, then I highly recommend checking out the smartphone-optimized Google Doc report at futureartecosystems.org, link in the show notes. It's also available in open-bound hard copy, set in default HTML Times New Roman and printed in CSS Blue. I posted a picture of it back in March on my blog. I think this report will be looked back on as an influential text going into the 2020s and beyond. It really is the first big piece of thinking into 21st century cultural infrastructure that I've come across, covering everything from who makes what to the challenges involved in making art with advanced or developing technologies in the present moment, and the recognition of the changing terrain of the art world and the industrial cultural complex that we have lived with during the 20th century or the last 100 years. All in all, highly recommended. The disclaimer that I'll place here is that I mentioned in the special thanks of the report. Definitely check it out. Unfortunately for everyone, that opening statement only used up 1/3 of my script's word count. I said on my blog recently that by time spent engaging with material, I think maybe 2/3 or maybe 3/4 of all the media that I consume at this point in my life is by people that I know or am connected to. This includes blogs, podcasts, web shows, etc. Even the fiction book that I'm about to start reading is by someone that I'm acquainted with in real life, which is why I have the first draft. It honestly feels a little like home. I'll get to why in a bit, but I think it's a very different experience to the more general media ecology. I'm not saying that it's better, though I suspect it probably is, but it is certainly different. I'm able to read or listen to something and then drop the creator a line to say great job, ask a question, or offer support. I've given multiple talks now on how the seeds of many of the things that are important to me today were planted in the DIY punk scene where I grew up. Community, politics, the importance of respect, and in some sense professionalism between others that you must share space with. Just how interdependent all aspects of a punk scene are, the economics of putting on gigs, making a zine, or running a practice space so that bands playing the gigs can get good. No individual in a scene can stand alone, which is why the scene is in some sense always dying. Lastly, I also learned an important lesson about how to behave on the internet. Even back in the year 2000, I knew that the internet was real life. Someone had been talking shit on the local PHP BBS and got glassed the following Friday night for what they said on the forum. Talk shit online, get banged, as it were. A very clear lesson to observe. But all that aside, the media environment that I've managed to move myself into personally feels a little like it did back then. A majority of it is being created by the people around me. We are all in some sense creating and living our own culture. Back in the noughties, NME was the enemy, not just because it represented the quote-unquote mainstream, but because it was an authority or entity that was telling us what was supposed to be good. We knew what was good, because we were all making good shit and enjoying it. I encourage you all to engage with the media and content that your friends are making outside of what they are saying, posting on social networks. It is the only way we are going to claw back a healthy media environment. With that in mind, I'd like to point you in the direction of the Trauma Talks podcast hosted by Jeremy Sachs and Catherine Cox. Link in the show notes. The podcast examines the challenges of living with trauma. None of the episodes go into detail about traumatic events themselves, but instead seek to be educational and supportive. The aim is to challenge and dispel stigma and the myths around types of trauma, to give survivors a platform to communicate their own messages and to give a voice to silenced communities. They are only 2 episodes in, but it's shaping up to be something special. Episode 1 features Lady Unchained, the founder of Unchained Poetry, a platform for artists with experience of the criminal justice system. I've been lucky enough to see her perform her spoken word work several times, and it's really great, and it's great to hear her on the show. Let's also recommend Interdependence.fm, hosted by Holly Herndon and Matt Dryhurst. They are 10 episodes in now, supported by Patreon. They are having conversations with people working on projects at the forefront of 21st century culture, with an emphasis on music, technology, and policy. From Glenn Weil of the Penny Fractions newsletter to Evgeny Morozov, founder of the Syllabus, or Trevor McFreedies of Brud. If the Future Art Ecosystems book floated your boat, then check out this show too. And as a little plug, don't forget that I blog weekly about the things I'm reading, playing, and listening to and more at thejmo.net.